Hey everyone, I'm Tom and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about my reading plans for the month of March, and I am very excited about what I have on the docket this month. There's a lot of different kind of things, a lot less fantasy than I would normally read, but I'm just really excited for some of the stuff that is on here. Some of it is recommended from other booktubers, and some of it is just stuff that I think is outside of what I have seen a lot of people who are on booktube talk about, which always is exciting to maybe bring something new and fresh, even if it's a little bit outside of our sci-fi fantasy wheelhouse to everybody who watches. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about what I'm going to be continuing that I didn't finish in February. And this is a fantasy book. It's actually romantasy, and that is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Why am I reading this? This is a read along I'm doing with my fiance. We've been having a pretty good time, I would say, with the series overall. And I think, reading it together, getting to have discussions about it and everything makes it even better. Obviously, book 3 in the Imperium cycle, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, Onyx Storm. And so far, I'm about halfway through it. I prioritize some other reading that I want to make sure I get done in February. So this one might not actually get finished and will bleed over into March. But yeah, like I said, halfway through, it's more of the same. And I don't know if that's a good thing, a bad thing, but we'll definitely have a full, spoiler video like we have for the other ones as we continue on with that. The only other thing I'm going to continue reading, and this is actually going to be something that's going to be mentioned every month, is this is I'll call it a loose read along, and that is for Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Cimmerian, whichever way you want to say it. Kind of depends on what edition you're reading and who you're talking to. This was kind of a loosely organized thing by Jake over at Nerd Level Rising. We are doing most of the discussions in our Discord that will be linked down in the description. So there's a thread for it. You can come in and see, what we're talking about. We're reading one short story a week, so it's very, very manageable. Most of these, I think, like the most recent couple were between like 20 and 30 pages. So like over the course of a week, I normally read them on a Sunday, which is, the deadline for that week. It's very, very loose. That's, it's an exaggeration to say there's any kind of deadline going on with it, but it has been a lot of fun. That's why I'm reading it. And I will just say I've been very impressed with it overall and excited to continue on to see the evolution of the writing, the character, this different kind of stories. It's not like any other kind of short stories I've read. It's I don't want to call it sporadic or scattershot, but like, in one story, Conan's a king, and another one, he's not, and he's just like a random guy. There's just a wide variety of stuff, and I have really enjoyed the writing and everything there. So excited to continue on with that. I think we're going to just kind of go through all of them. I think there's only one novel length story, so when we get to that one, will probably take longer than a week. Maybe that'll be for the entire month, but something like that. So like I said, definitely come talk to us about it in the Discord. It's been a lot of fun so far. So with all the old things that are going to still be new mentioned, let's go on ahead and talk about things that I'm going to be reading this month. And first off, we have got to talk about Red Rising. This was originally planned for February, but somehow I always manage to think I can read more in the shortest month of the year than I can. I don't think this one needs too much of an introduction. It's a very popular series at this point. Now, why am I reading it personally? Why am I excited for it? Well, after I finished The Expanse, I started Sun Eater, and now that I finished Sun Eater, I'm starting Red Rising. It's kind of the next in my long sci-fi series dominoes that need to fall. This is obviously one that has been highly recommended to me. I think it's going to be one that I really enjoy. Also, it helps that apparently Red God is coming out this year. I don't think that's happening. It just doesn't seem like it. But obviously, if I can do what I did with Sun Eater, kind of time up the release of the last book with me catching up on the series, and I don't have to wait for anything, that has been fantastic. Like I said, I got to read all the way through The Expanse, all the way through Sun Eater. I guess technically I had like 2 weeks worth of waiting for the last book in that. But if I can do something similar here with Red Rising and just that, entire series, that would be really great. There's some, obviously this is Roman inspired, I guess is what I've heard. I don't actually really know it, not the best explanation. I think more people know about this than I do. The one thing I do get from this first book is Hunger Game comparisons. I see that all over the place. Everybody warned me so much that this is the worst book. Don't compare it to the rest of the series. It gets so much better. All of those things. I have a feeling I'm going to enjoy it from book 1 just because of the setting and some of the stuff that's going on. It's up my alley. And I said this with Sun Eater and I was right, but I would kind of be surprised if this didn't become like an all-time series for me, just from the things I've heard, just from some of the things it pulls from, as I've read some more like ancient history stuff, specifically around Rome and some of the main players in and around Rome. I think I'm gonna, maybe see some things and just enjoy it even more. So that's kind of part of why I want to read it as well. And just, I've had, like I said, so many people recommend it to me, and I know so many people are probably excited that I'm finally getting to it. Next up, this is a book recommendation that I got from another booktuber here on YouTube, Nick from another booktube channel. Nick does not post a whole lot anymore. I think he would say he's semi-retired, but he did post a top 10 graphic novel, comics, and novels of the year for him. And I obviously watched those videos, and I've gotten a lot of great recommendations from him. And this was his, I'm pretty sure this was his #1 book. If not, it was in the top 3, because I got 2 recommendations that I added onto my list from that. And this book is going to be very different from anything I've read. It is, outside of our normal wheelhouse, like I said. And the next 2 books are actually, and that would be Fox by James Earl Oat. Did I get it right? James Carol Oat. James Earl, not Mufasa. But it is called Fox. And I'm going to read just a little snippet that I pulled that kind of explains why I want to read this. Fox illuminates the darkest corners of the human psyche while asking profound moral questions about justice and the response evil demands. And to paint a little bit of a broader picture, I believe the basic premise is there's a beloved teacher in the community who is found dead in their car. And some of these details are going to be slightly wrong. I try not to look too hard into the things I'm going to read, just enough to get me interested, which what I just read did enough for me. But they're found dead in their car, and basically, obviously, there's investigations and things starts to go on about this person, and it maybe comes to light that he was not a very good person, and some of the things that he did. I don't know how to say this without. I don't know. Basically, it sounds like he maybe was into children, and that is obviously a horrific thing. And I think this is going to be a book that makes me profoundly angry and want justice. And I have a feeling that's not what is going to happen in this book, but that the idea of asking those like deep moral questions and like how should we handle the worst things that people can do, I think is just like an interesting concept. So I'm really interested to see how this book handles some of that, how it handles those really dark, like the worst kind of things. And sometimes there's just like, you want to read something that's super messed up, almost in like a, I don't want to say in like a horror movie way, but just like, man, this is as bad as it gets. And like I don't want to say nihilistic, but like almost nihilistic in a way. And obviously with Nick's recommendation, him talking about it so glowingly made me even more interested in this book. But I do anticipate this being a rather dark read, and I'll be interested to see, like I said, how some of those things are handled, because it's such a sensitive topic, right, rightfully so. So that has also kind of piqued my interest to see, how something like this gets published, and just like, I don't know. I guess if that scene in It from Stephen King is still like widely published, who knows what kind of messed up stuff that can be in these books. But yeah, I think that is going to be, I don't know. I don't want to say interesting. There's just, I don't know. I think it's just going to be something very different than anything else I've read. And that could be a really good thing or a really bad thing. Sticking with the not fantasy reads, next up we have Silence by, I'm going to get it wrong, Shusaku Endo? I don't know. That's not right. But let me say, why do I want to read this book? Basically, I saw a clip from a movie that I believe this is based off. I don't know how new or old it was, but the scene that I saw is there are people tied to crosses in like the incoming tide, and they're just, out in the ocean as the tide comes in. I don't even know what happens after that. I don't know if they're rescued, saved, or anything. And I did just pull like one little snippet from a site that talks about this book a little bit. A novel of historical fiction. It is the story of a Jesuit missionary sent to the 17th century Japan who endures persecution that followed the defeat of the Shambara rebellion. Like I said, I don't really actually know a whole lot about this time period, but that scene from the movie had me interested. And this is another one of those books that I haven't seen anybody actually talk about this on BookTube. So I'm hoping that maybe I can bring something new and different. Obviously, historical fiction is not fantasy or sci-fi, but I think it fits into that same kind of niche. I think a lot of times historical fiction can fit in pretty well for fantasy readers specifically. A little less on the sci-fi front, but I don't know. This is rather short. I'm hoping this, kind of enlightens me a little bit on this time period in Japan. Like I said, don't know a whole lot about it. And I think this might just be another one of like, it's pretty brutal. And I guess that's kind of the theme for what I'm reading right now. And the last thing I will start, I don't think this is something that I will finish, but that will be Trader's Knot by Jenny Wirtz. This is book 7 in the Wars of Light and Shadow. And obviously I'm reading this because I am part of a read along with a whole bunch of people. We're actually going to be doing the book 6 discussion on my channel. I believe it's going to be March 7th if nothing changes. So that will be really exciting. And also what is going to be exciting is I think if I finish this, this month, or in March, I'll be caught up on the correct cadence, because at some point I messed up my cadence, and I've been reading these kind of back to back to back more quickly than I would normally read this, but I've been really enjoying it. So it's kind of like worked out. It's been like best of both worlds for me a little bit. But yeah, that will be Trader's Knot. If you haven't read Janny yet, you should. You can. I wouldn't even recommend starting with the super long series. Go ahead, try out to Ride Hell's Chasm or Master of Whitestorm, are like the two that I would always point people towards to give a try. But that will be very exciting, and always looking forward to talking about the series with people as we get further and further into it. On the other front, I have said this same thing last month, just haven't been in a super big comic mood, but I would really like to read Kingdom Come. I think actually my number one priority on the comic front is going to be in the second compendium of Invincible. I'm like halfway through it. I just need to like re-get it from my library and finish it, because the next season of that is coming out soon, and they're probably going to be pulling from all different parts of that compendium. Some of the stuff I've gotten to, some of it I haven't, so I definitely want to be able to watch that after reading it. It's been a really fun experience seeing what they're doing different in the show, what they're doing different in the comics, and just like how that's all working together. There's some things I really like in the TV show that I think they do way better, and there's stuff in the comics that I like. It's just been really nice overall doing that. And then the only other thing on the comic front is there is a sequel, I don't know what you want to call it, series or a sequel to Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. That was a really popular comic, I don't know, 2 years ago. And I think the final edition of that is coming out very soon. So I can read, I think it's just 6 issues. So I can read all 6 at the same time, which will be great if I can do that. So that is my reading plans for the month of March. I don't think I have bitten off more than I can chew. And if that's the case, I do have some other things I would read. It would probably be Sword Saint would be the first thing I picked up, so I can knock that trilogy out. Or I once again have decided to read too much, and a bunch of this will bleed into April as well. But like I said, that is all for me. I would love to hear what you're reading down below in the comments, or as always, you can hit me up on the Discord linked in the description. But remember, read what you want, when you want.